at Verizon Media, we operate a full stack platform, meaning that we have both the demand side of it, the demand side platform, as well as the supply side. On the supply side, particularly in the area of video, we have a very interesting combination of assets. On one hand, we have our advertising technology, so think of it as the video supply side platform, as well as the Verizon Media platform, which is a streaming platform. And this is a streaming platform that powers the who's who of broadcasting, the likes of ESPN and Fox. So we have a very powerful and comprehensive set of assets, to your point on the sell side, that really help these publishers grow their audiences and monetize them.
What are the implications for Verizon and for the industry more broadly?
Yeah, absolutely. So what we have seen, and I think particularly even accelerated in the current environment, is significant growth in online video consumption, in particular around connected TV, over-the-top type video consumption. So when we think about the business that we've been doing with publishers in that area, it has been growing very, very significantly on a number of dimensions. It has been growing in volume. It has been growing in quality. So for example, as you think about the Super Bowl, we streamed that in 4K. And consumers are also becoming more demanding, and they want that quality and a really strong experience. And at the same time, publishers are trying to find ways to better monetize those assets. So they do a very, very good job on their own with their own sales forces, but there's a lot more demand out there that can be brought to the table. So we have been doing that as well, and we have been connecting both platforms. We recently announced what we call Smart Auction, which is essentially leveraging the best of the ad tech side and leveraging the best on the Verizon Media platform in terms of streaming. So to your question on the industry, what we expect is that consumers will continue to drive this level of consumptions. I truly believe that there's a step function that further accelerates the speed that we were already seeing. And then on the business side, publishers will continue to evolve and modernize both their experiences in terms of moving more and more to high definition and so on, as well as continue to evolve and optimize their monetization capabilities. So it's a very exciting times in that space.
Ivan, and just tell us a little bit about the demand side and how you're working with the demand side.
Yeah, absolutely. So when you think about it, it's the ability to be both flexible in terms of how you manage across multiple screens, multiple consumer engagements, but also simple in terms of being able to look at the world with a common lens. That's growing in importance, and that's how we've been thinking about it. And we think about three core tenets, if you will, around our demand side products. The first one is around being omni-channel and having connected channels, right? So you have multiple channels ranging from, say, traditional display all the way to connected TV and digital out of home and audio and so on. So that's an important component, but it's important to connect those and think about those with common metrics, looking at the same segments and so on. The second one is around diverse insights and transparency, right? We are very fortunate in that we engage with nearly 1 billion consumers on the owned and operated front and key premium partners that we partner with. This gives us a view into really strong, diverse insights around how consumers behave. And this is super important in terms of enabling advertisers to connect with a much more relevant message for consumers, and at the same time, get better results coming out of that. And third, and super important in particular in the current environment, is brand safety. So we've been evolving our demand side products along those lines, connecting channels, providing diverse insights, improving brand safety, and you're going to continue to see that. In particular, when it comes to the topic of connected TV, we've seen triple-digit growth. I mean, as consumers adopt this more broadly, as publishers evolve their monetization, as advertisers look at this landscape in an omni-channel fashion, we've seen a lot of growth, and we only expect that to grow, and we're doubling down our investments in that as well.
Great. And finally, tell us sort of what's going on with your properties around CTV in terms of your own and owned properties, and what you're seeing in terms of viewership around the crisis, some trends you're seeing, and kind of where this might bring things in terms of CTV, where it is now, and how this could accelerate some trends perhaps when we're on the other side of this thing.
Yeah, absolutely. So as you've seen broadly in the industry, and we've probably seen it somewhat amplified on our end, there's significantly more consumption of connected TV type content. A host of drivers for that. As we think about our owned properties, we started this last year with bell-to-bell coverage in Yahoo Finance when it comes to live streaming. We've been doing a lot more video across the whole set of assets that we had. We were very active and continue to be very active when it comes to sports and the Super Bowl earlier this year and so on. And we've had just phenomenal growth as you think about those areas. Today we announced earnings, and in one of those slides, Matt Ellis was talking about some of those audience growth numbers. And in the case of finance, what we've seen is almost a doubling of those audiences on a sequential basis when you think about comparing these kind of year over year. So we're just seeing tremendous growth, and we continue to invest and innovate there. To your question on what's going on around the current context, there's naturally a lot more consumption. I was in a panel last week with someone from Nielsen who was highlighting how the older age groups, call it, folks in the 35 and above type range, have significantly stepped up streaming consumption. And we all believe that this is something that has only accelerated the trends that we were seeing, and we expect that to continue going forward. So in terms of implications, as I think about the future, it opens up a host of super interesting opportunities, even beyond what we are seeing that you would say is more apparent to the eye, right? Like, hey, people are consuming more streaming. And I think one of the areas that we're seeing is the need and the focus on more interactivity and on richer experiences at scale. So we're naturally seeing a lot of events that were previously consumed in a gregarious form, so people attending a massive conference or elements like that are still getting a ton of scale, but in a virtual environment, and where some of the platforms that are supporting that haven't really been built for that. We recently announced the acquisition of Blue Jeans, and that's a great example of when you think about the future, some of the things that can come from the combination of certain assets like our network, the Verizon Media platform that I highlighted previously, and the interactivity that comes from something like Blue Jeans capabilities and so on. And this is just one example. We've done a lot in the Super Bowl, for example, with AR. So when you connect the dots among all of those things, I can see into the future, number one, that the audiences are a lot more open to these kinds of experiences, and they are adopting it and making it part of their habits. And number two, that as much as we've seen this massive acceleration, we've only begun, because there's so much innovation to come into the future.